Hi everyone, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and thank you so much for tuning into one of our talks today. We are a year-round digital talk series bringing you the best creative voices across film, television, and theater. And today we're incredibly honored to be joined by the wonderful Noomi Rapace, who is currently starring in Bleecker Street's film, The Secrets We Keep, in which she's also an executive producer. And I wanted to start by asking you about coming on board this project, because I know for you that you make it a very personal process. It's not about auditioning and just the script. It's really also about the collaboration, the people that you're going to be working with. And with Yuval Adler, I wanted to ask you about kind of those first conversations that the two of you had and what you really saw in him as a director, but also as a creative collaborator that made you want to do this particular project.
Wow, yeah. So I was looking for a project with Joel Kinnaman. So that was maybe 4 years ago. And we were given the script by our the management that was at then. And then we read it, and there was something in it we really connected with, like I guess the question of, forgiveness versus revenge, and the terror balance, the friction between those extremes, and that was something we wanted to investigate, but there was no director on. And the story was a little bit like, we kind of knew that the script needed work because it was a story we've kind of seen before, it was, and then this process of finding a director for the project started. And I met a few different directors, and it wasn't quite right. They were good directors, but not like the one. And then I was shooting Jack Ryan in New York and had a meeting with Yuval Adler. He came to my hotel, he sat down, and he was just this man with this insane, brutal honesty from the first thing, like from the moment he opened his mouth. And I was like, okay, I love him. I was like, yep, that's him. And he was like, so Noomi, he just like started saying those like brutal truths to me. And I was like, okay, I've been waiting for you. You are a man, like you are what I want. And I texted Joel. I was like, I found a director. I called the other producers, like, he is the one. We got to do it with Yuval. And then Yuval, who's an amazing writer as well, me and him started kind of diving into the story and doing research on the time period. And then he basically started interviewing me, like, what is your worst fear? Like, what's the worst thing that could have happened to you when you were this age? And then I was like, well, I'm very, very close to my sister. So if someone would hurt my sister, it would be very hard for me to forgive that person, So we started kind of digging into my worst fears. And then out of that, we started building the character, Maya, and building her backstory. So it became really personal because he has this, and that's something I have myself, this almost like obsessive interest in the human psyche and how we become what we are, and like the break points in someone. Like, when in your life did you change? When did you become this version of yourself? And he is almost like a scientist, he just goes in and deep dives into the subject and to the topic, and then he wants to know everything. And he's an incredible man, like so intelligent and funny. We had a blast. I was working, shooting daytime and then going straight to his office and working with him, and then got so much energy from that. He's just incredible.
Yeah. With the way that he was asking you those questions about your own experience and really pulling in that personal element, how did that really shift and evolve the way that you were preparing performance-wise from the way that you usually would? Because you came in essentially already knowing so many of the details and so much of the backstory of this character.
Yeah. I mean, what was different in this one was also the fact that I was producing. So I was kind of putting on the producer hat and then stepping into a way more calm and responsible version of Noomi, where I'm like, when I need to be a problem solver for everyone and for the production. And then when I'm an actress, when I took that hat off and steps into Maya, I can allow myself to be an emotional creature that is more reactive and slightly more lost and searching, because Yuval was very much in there guiding me and leading me and pushing me. And the fact that I really knew her and had done so much work before, both as a producer and as an actress, made it possible to shoot this film in 25 days, which was like, it's a period drama that we shot in New Orleans in 25 days. It was insane. But we all, we knew the story so well, and we were so in tune, me and him. So me, him, and Greg Shapiro, the producer, we were a really tight team. So we kind of did something that everyone said it was impossible.
Yeah, and it's such an incredibly intimate cast as well, because it really is just the primary focus on you, Joel, and then Chris Messina as well, as kind of this three-hander. Did the three of you get much opportunity to really sit and look at the dynamic of what that was going to be between these characters and the way that it was going to evolve through any sort of conversations or rehearsal process? Or do you kind of prefer walking onto set and having that discovery process once you're filming?
It's very different productions and different movies. Like this one, me and Chris had more time. I knew Joel since way back, so we already had that. We can go right in. We don't need to be polite, and we love each other. We're good friends, so we you have that trust, and he will have my back even if I do a bad take, or if I'm embarrassed, if I'm stupid, if I'm scared, whatever. I know he will hold my hand, basically. But Chris, who played my husband that I've never met before, we tried to spend as much time as we could before. And we had rehearsals and long conversations with Yuval, where we're kind of finding the relationship and who are they, like what happened 10 years ago? When did we leave? Because we met during the end of the war, Second World War in Europe. And I've been hiding certain things from him, and he was a medic in the war, and we came back to his country, and I'm a foreigner, and was like kind of building all these little brick stones to our to our relationship, which was to work with someone like Chris was just an amazing gift. He's an incredible actor, so generous, so loving, and so passionate. So I just felt like I'm loved by someone. I felt like he loved me, and it was that itself was something I wish for, any actor to experience at least once.
It also felt like a valuable aspect that before the film kind of goes to the darker places in terms of the emotional sense of your character, that we do see that levity in their marriage. We see them joking around. Was that something that was important to both of you to really show that side of the relationship before it transcends into a different space?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I wanted to show, the life she built for herself and how she'd been trying to handle with a very complicated and broken past, the history of living with this extreme trauma that you kind of closed the door to, and been trying to put yourself above it and function as a wife, as a mom, as a woman, and that they have a pretty good life, even though she has moments that are when the past kind of hits her, but then she's been able to push it back. And it was really important to show like what life before Thomas, Joel's character, enters my life, before and after. What happens when you start losing control and the past just takes over the present version of you, and how that it's not even a choice for her. It becomes something she has to do, and how she's struggling with, with the side in her that wants revenge and wants to destroy and wants him to suffer and wants him to feel the pain she's been, having and holding and carrying for so long. And at the same time, she is the person we saw in the beginning. She's a beautiful mother, and she has she has this husband that she really deeply loves, but she needs to solve this issue to be able to move on in her life.
Yeah. And in terms of the portrayal of that trauma, it's one of the things that you do so delicately and so beautifully through your performance, in the way that, it starts gradually seeping out, and there's so many different explorations of what trauma is and the way that it continues to affect someone years after. Did you kind of feel a need to look at it in like a clinical research sense, or did you really just approach it more from the emotional sense of what you thought that would feel like day to day in each of these moments?
Both, actually. I mean, I started with filling out my knowledge bank with science and statistics, and just, and also me and Yuval was studying the subject, and and looking into specific cases, and also memory is so delicate, and it's so, we are such a complex human beings, like we are so, it's, and no trauma looks the same. So even if you have a diagnosis, you get a diagnosis, or you work on it, and then something slightly shifts in your reality, it can all fall apart. So it's so delicate and so fragile. And it was really important for me to make Maya real, and to make her fully believable, to not go for any shortcuts. So I started with like filling myself with knowledge from others, and then kind of letting that sink in, and then use myself and like things that happen in my life, and just bringing that up,
Yeah. I also love that in terms of memory, that something that you've done with previous roles is using fragrance as a tool for finding your performance and reconnecting with your character. And if that was something that you did for this character, and if so, what were kind of those fragrance and scents and tones that you brought into her?
Well, I used like an old oil, like a musky, earthy oil, because there was something, and I mixed it with some patchouli, and it was actually the patchouli gave me anxiety, because the patchouli was a scent that my mom used to buy this oil in a kind of multicultural, like kind of, I think it was a store that had a lot of Indian art, and she found this patchouli oil that she really liked, and I associated that oil with something quite stressful. So I wanted to, and I love musk. So musk would be the character's own choice, and the patchouli will be this shadow from the past. So it created like a stress in me. And some days when I needed more of the stress element, I would add more of the patchouli.
I love it so much, and obviously with a period piece, there's always such specific design in terms of not just the production design of their home, but the costumes and the hair and makeup. And are those valuable tools for you in terms of discovering who a character is, the way that they walk down the street, the way that they behave in that particular setting?
Yes, 100%. It's so crucial. And we had an amazing costume designer, Christina, who's very invested in the characters. She knew Maya, she had her version of Maya so clear, and she was really fighting for certain costumes, and Yuval was fighting back, and he was like, no, it's too much. The color is too extreme. And she was like, no, this is her. She would wear this. So it was, and that's something I truly loved seeing, and, experiencing, like, every single one that was invited into this process had such a love for the story and for the characters. So it became really special in that sense. And me as a producer, seeing how everyone involved really fought for the characters. Our DP Kolya did an amazing job. He was living with me, moving with me, breathing Maya. Like it was almost like we were one body sometimes. And that was something that lifted the film and kind of gave it a breathing, almost like an extra. The costume together with the set design and the camera work was almost like a character itself. So because we had such a narrow space, it was it's almost like a play, it's in the basement, it's up on the top floor, and then very little exterior. So we didn't have so much room to play with. So the fact that every detail, the colors, the small, the shifts of how we would break down and distress the clothes, and how, the blood stains or the sweat, or how Kolya would work with the camera, the deeper into the story we went, the more kind of feverish and desperate the camera became. So we were all in tune with each other, sort of.
Yeah. Was there more of a choreography to the way that you worked with the DP, with that intimate space and the way that it was moving and getting very close up with you?
No, that is the magic. He was actually just following. He's a magician, and I think he started to understand me so well. So we didn't rehearse a lot, and I did different takes every time. So it was very much just an intuitive journey.
It's so serendipitous when it comes together in that way. And particularly with those scenes, because that's the point at which your character has taken Joel McKinnon's character into the basement, and he's essentially being tied up and held there while she pushes him for information. And, you know, I know for Yuval, it was very important to have a level of authenticity, and that's something that you really bring into every role. So he really was being tied up very tightly and in very uncomfortable quarters. How did kind of the fact that you have that long existing relationship with him and the trust there really allow both of you to almost push it further in the places that you were going with the physical elements of this dichotomy between them?
I mean, when you know someone and trust someone, you can allow yourself to lose control slightly, because you don't need to play it safe, and you don't need to, you know, he knows that I'm super nerdy and he knows that I'm not a cool person, that I'm quite insecure sometimes and quite lost sometimes, and, you know, overcompensating, and, you know, he can see right through me, which makes it, there's nowhere to hide in a way, which I like. And also, but in the end of the day, the most important thing is that you can truly let your guard down, and you can investigate and explore the character and let the character take you on a journey. You don't need to plan as much. You can be more vulnerable and more fragile in like towards yourself, and that's something I'm trying to achieve, I guess, in every character, in every production, you know, to come to that place where it's like, it's unprotected, you know, I will show my naked self, you know.
And in terms of the actor who plays your son in the film as well, I thought that was such a wonderful dynamic. And as an actor, it's such an interesting thing, because you're not at that point just giving your own performance, you're also really supporting their performance. So kind of how does that dynamic shift when you're working with a child actor, such as Amy does such a great job to really make sure that the two of you are both coming together as scene partners?
Oh, he was incredible. And he trusted us, but also, I mean, I scared him sometimes. I could see, and then those days I stayed away from him a little bit, and then in the takes, I said to him, like, you know, just so you know, I'm gonna go for it, you know, and he was like, it's okay. And I was like, okay, so just so you know, it's not like, you know, I kind of warned him a little bit sometimes, and then still, you know, I could see that he was like, it hit him, and because I was not lying, you know, the emotional truth in what I do in that specific situation is still almost as impactful and powerful as it was in real life. Because my body and his body doesn't know that we're lying, that we're like, you know, that is not real. So it's, and for a child that is so kind of innocent and so open and just taking it all in, he was amazingly brave and did an amazing job. And his parents as well were like, you know, just the fact that they allowed us to, they trusted him. I mean, in the end of the day, I think they really respected him, and he wanted to do it. So it felt like, you know, obviously when you work with a child, you have to work around them, and, you know, sometimes they get tired, and then you have to, you know, shake them up a bit with maybe doing a take when it's quite maybe a bit lighter, or maybe go a little bit more aggressive. So it never stays comfortable. So they never really know what's going to happen.
One of the other on-screen relationships that I loved watching, because it felt like such an unexpected narrative choice, was your character's relationship with Amy Seimetz's, who's playing Joel.
I love her. Yeah.
What? Because it doesn't feel like something that would necessarily happen, but you both play it in such a believable way. And I was interested in how you thought about that from an emotional standpoint for your character, and the balance between this is someone that she's looking at and really pushing for information for herself in the mission that she has and what she's trying to achieve, but also reconciling with the guilt that she has in doing it, because it is an effect on her and her children as well.
Yeah. I love that you say that. Thank you. And it was those scenes really got to me, because it almost came as a surprise to me as well. Because, you know, Maya's on a mission. Maya is cold. Maya hears her sister's screams. You know, Maya has her sister so fresh in her mind, and the flashes of her sister suffering. And in that, the truth of that is like, you know, your husband caused this. It's your husband's doing. And then I'm sitting in front of this woman who's basically falling apart in front of me. And I was like, she's innocent, you know, or is she? And then I'm trying to read her. And then you know, as Maya, I felt like I like her. And we actually both, you know, this man actually fooled us both. And this man took something from me. And he is now taking something from her. So he ruined both of us. So in my head, I kind of used the connection I felt with her and the empathy that Maya felt for her. I turned it into something I'm gonna save. I mean, maybe you're better off without him. You know, so, and then sometimes I was hit by this wave of guilt because I might need to take your husband away for good, you know. And then, you know, because Maya is not a killer, you know, so she's struggling. And then I think when the scenes that I had with Amy that was when reality truly hit Maya, because it was like, you know, am I equal to him now? Am I actually the same? Am I becoming a monster because I'm repeating a pattern of violence? And that's when she needs to push it away even more. And it kind of triggers her, but it becomes this deep conflict of responsibility and you know, motherhood, sisterhood. What is that? And where's your loyalty? And then, you know, she almost needed to like snap herself back. It's like, no, it's about my sister. I need to understand. I need to know.
Yeah, and in terms of, you know, kind of as you're filming so many incredibly complex scenes, the way that you worked with Yuval, I was interested in kind of what his dynamic was in terms of the space that he created with you and the way that he gave feedback. I know that you mentioned earlier that he was very blunt, you know, and very open and very honest when he gave you notes and questions at the beginning, but was that something that transcended through to when you were in production and filming, or was it a different atmosphere on set?
Oh no, he's very, he truly pushed me, and you know, I want to be pushed. But there was days when I was like, I just felt like I was losing my mind and I was like drowning. I felt like I was breathing through a straw that was in a pond, and it was like nowhere oxygen left. And he was like, come on, go again, straight, go. And I was like, just jumped in and went one more take. And then it was like, and one more, you know, I was like, so it was a physical and an emotional roller coaster that it was very, he was definitely the pilot, but we were also coexisting in that field. So some days, you know, I was pushing it and I was like, I want to go one more, you know, let's go even deeper, you know, I think we can. And then, but you know, the most important thing that I took with me was that he is such a feminist, you know, he's like, he truly lived with Maya more than with any like of the other characters. He identified with her. He was living, it felt like he saw the world from my eyes and he was inside of her, you know. So some days he was, you know, I could see her trauma spinning in him as well. So, and that made it, you know, we were like sometimes just holding each other.
In a slightly broader respect, I wanted to ask you about something that you've mentioned in the past. You know, obviously in the industry, particularly as a woman, there's often expectations and decisions that people try to infiltrate on you. Like, why don't we make this costume tighter? Why don't we sexualize this character a little bit more? And there was something that you've said in the past that I thought was really powerful, that your response sometimes is to say, but why? And to kind of like push the question back on them. It's like, but why are you making this choice? Why is this necessary for the character? And I was just really interested in how you kind of discovered that that was a valuable tool and what that's really, how that's really helped you in terms of evolving your characters and making sure that you're playing them in the way that you want to.
Your questions are really good. Thank you. Well, the why is connected to, is it real? Why would she wake up with makeup and look flawless, you know? Who does that? I've never done that. I have pillow marks and puffy eyes, you know? So it's like, you know, I always, I love reality. I love the real world. I like, you know, real characters. The films I love watching are the ones I am obsessed with, the Safdie brothers movies, because every face is real. You just, there's so much life behind the eyes of the characters. And you know, I love films that are reflecting reality. So that is the easy answer, you know. And in every conversation I have with a director that wants, or a producer that wants you to look sexy or attractive or be likable, it's like, yeah, that works if the character is trying to be likable and wants to be sexy and, you know, wants to play that game. But like most of my characters is not doing that. They're just trying to survive basically. And like, do you have time to think about what you look like? Then no, probably not. So it's not, it's but also, to be honest, like it's a decision I had to make in myself, to never let my vanity be a part of my decisions. That I can never, like, you know, you always have this little thing that you want to look good, you know, it's like, you know, and then it's like, and every time it's like, no, this is just your vanity. You have to push it aside. You have to be married to the truth for the character. And then when I see the film, that's always when it hits me. You know, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, here we go again. Not again. I always look so trashy. I always look so broken down. I'm always a mess in the end. And it's like, yeah, but like, what else? What option did I have? You know, the character like went through, you know, went from this to that. You know, she wouldn't look any other way. When I did Prometheus and we did the end sequences on the, like out on the planet, then she's like, you know, under the big helmet and basically just like trying to hold on to the last bit of life in her and surviving. It's just pure survivor mode. Like, of course she's sweating and she would look totally, you know, she's bleeding from the inside, and she's been everything you can imagine happened to her, everything bad, you know. And it's like, how would she look, how can she look good in that situation? So it's like, the answer is simple, because what's real, you know. And then you always go back to that. So my arguments, like very few directors, when you actually ask the question, they it's very rare that they would keep fighting for, you know, a beautiful look, when it's like, yeah, but okay, if you can defend it from a reality perspective, sure, but if not, no.
Yeah, and it's that authenticity that makes the performance so great and the storytelling so wonderful. And I want to thank you so much for taking time to talk about this film today. And I hope that everyone will check it out via video on demand with Bleecker Street Films, The Secrets That We Keep. And thank you so much, Noomi.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.